Weep. Oh. Hi, Facebook. Sorry, I thought I had some eyes. There we go. Sorry, I need a little more light here. How's it going, guys? So today, or this evening, is me covering protein, just kind of a protein overview, what it is. Is that going to reverberate?
I have it on silent.
Okay. What protein is, how it affects us, why we take it, and then kind of some different forms of it, obviously, and then things to kind of watch out for. So this one will be just a little bit of a longer video. I'm still hoping to keep about 10-15 minutes. Very informative, so I'm going to give a few minutes before we get started just to try to get some other people in here, and then we will get going. So hope everyone's been having a good evening. Obviously, if you watch this in a later time, hopefully you're having a good day or whatever. Amber's sitting over here to the left watching me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, is that weird?
No.
Okay.
She can help respond to things if necessary. So.
Chris is on.
Hey, Chris. So, just for length's sake, I'll go ahead and get started. So, most people have heard, at least over the last couple years especially, that protein has been a big push for just diets in general, for your nutrition, and for a large reason. Resistance training, as exercise has become much more prevalent, but specifically resistance training, high intensity, protein's been pushed much more to the forefront because a lot of research is showing its importance when it comes to the overall development of your muscle tissue, which for most people who exercise, that is the big thing that they're trying to increase. At least one of the main components. They're trying to increase muscle mass, which is what gives you that definition and tone you're looking for, while losing body fat and other things like that. So, your muscle essentially is made out of protein. Now, it's actually, believe it or not, 70% of it is actually water. So when you actually break it down, majority of your muscle is water, but the remaining of it is going to be made up of glycogen, which is stored glucose, and then amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of your protein. So when someone says, I have to get my protein, what they're really talking about is they have to get a complete protein itself, which is made up of, and I should have looked at this earlier, but it's about 23 amino acids. So out of those 23, your body can actually make about 2/3 of those on its own through its own processes. But there are select number of amino acids that it cannot make that needs to be taken exogenously. So that is why we are omnivores, and we have to usually eat some form of animal product. So any sort of animal protein, like we're going to talk chicken, turkey, fish, beef, you kind of name it. If it's an animal, it's usually going to have protein. That's why we mainly consume it. Our body is able to break those proteins down into their building blocks of amino acids, and that's what we use to rebuild our body, specifically our skeletal muscle, but also our organ tissue. A lot of other areas in our body are made up of it as well. So all the protein you're consuming doesn't just go to your skeletal muscle that you're trying to build up. It's getting kind of pulled out from there. So that's why, especially for vegetarians and vegans and whatnot, they have a little bit more of a difficulty of getting complete proteins because a lot of vegetables usually they're missing one or two vital amino acids that they need. Now they get around this by consuming different types of carbohydrates, so like rice and beans make a complete protein itself, other things like that. So what you're really trying to do is you're striving to get as complete proteins as possible, get that amino acid pool that your body kind of brings together, so as it needs to make new tissue or repair tissue, it pulls from that amino acid pool. So kind of moving on from into the types of protein out there, you have your traditional animal products, so chicken breast, turkey, all that kind of stuff like that. But for most people, it's going to be very difficult to get adequate amount of protein without over consuming those things, because a lot of them, like beef and fish, come with excessive amounts of fat on top of it. So if you're in a dieting phase, it's going to be very difficult to get enough protein without getting extra nutrients from other sources. So that's where the supplement industry really kind of boomed with protein supplementation. So that's where you kind of came out with your whey and your casein protein, which are dairy byproducts. So when they're processing milk and everything, whey and casein kind of come from that, but it is a very protein-dense portion of milk itself that ends up being processed and turned into powderized form, usually, that you add to milk, essentially, or water, or whatever you want to. So through protein supplementation, that is how people are able to achieve the necessary protein they need per day without getting a lot of extra calories. On average, each protein, it's, let's say a scoop of protein usually that I take is going to be anywhere between 120 and 150 calories for about 24, 25 grams of protein. Versus, 4 ounces of steak may come out to about the same amount of protein, but you're also going to get, 10 to 15 grams of fat on top of that. So for someone who has to be very cautious about what I eat, that is where the supplementation kind of comes into play. Whey itself is one of the most bioavailable sources, or one that we can absorb. It's a complete protein. It has all the branched chain amino acids that the body needs to actually build muscle tissue. Kind of as a side note, because I won't go down this too much, but branched chain amino acids, which everyone kind of knows them as BCAAs, supplement industry has really pushed a lot of those out there to take, to continue muscle building, everything else like that. A lot of research is showing as long as you're getting enough protein every single day, BCAAs are a wash. You're wasting your money on them. They really don't play any extra purpose, maybe for intermittent fasting if you're doing that, or if you are, again, vegan, vegetarian type, may be able to take these because they're not actual animal products themselves. But if you're getting enough protein, don't worry about branched amino acids. Save your $20, $30, $40 that you're spending on those per month. So going back, whey protein itself is a very fast digesting protein. It's really great for post-workouts or just kind of having in general. Casein is the other byproduct. That one is a much more slower digesting. Cottage cheese is the prime example of what casein is. Amber doesn't like cottage cheese very well. It's one that I normally almost when I eat before I go to bed. Casein itself is still another complete protein, but it's much more slower digesting. So I eat before I go to bed, so as I'm sleeping, my body has more amino acids to do repair my body while I'm sleeping. So those are the two main dairy product ones. Now the problem with those, though, are there are a lot of individuals who are either lactose intolerant, dairy intolerant, have a lot of issues digesting dairy-based products. Amber is kind of one of them. We found a long time ago that whey protein doesn't really work with her. Very common issues can consist of bloating, a lot of, you'll say
feeling very full.
Feeling very full, even constipation sometimes can come from it. A lot of GI tract issues whenever they consume it. So and a lot of people will drink this for so long thinking that it's just kind of normal, but you should really never be bloated or have those type of responses when you're consuming a food. So luckily technology has gotten us to the point where we now have more protein supplementation of different versions, different types, where we're actually able to break down certain vegetable or carbohydrate themselves and pull out all the protein necessary. So you have your vegan and your vegetarian. Pea protein, rice protein, there's cranberry protein. They can tend to be a little more expensive, but those who are unable to digest dairy products, they can go this route themselves. So two prime examples I want to kind of show you guys is, this is my whey protein that I've been taking for a little while. Now this is just one brand that I bought, but there's one from True Nutrition, and I'll kind of go into some of the brands here in just a second. But this one is a primary whey protein. The nice thing about this one for me, even though I don't have any lact or dairy issues, this one comes filled with lactase as well, which is the primary enzyme that helps break it down. So for those who do even have just maybe a minor intolerance, this is actually a better way. This helps them digest it, where most whey proteins you buy don't normally have that. For those who really, really cannot digest that, then you have products like Arbonne's Vegan. So I went with them as another side supplement, primarily because there are a lot of people out there, women more than men, who have GI issues who cannot digest the whey casein. So the nice thing about this one is it is a combination of pea, cranberry, and rice protein. So it's much easier on the digestive system. The other thing is it is a full protein out of it. It isn't missing one of the essential amino acids. So, and the nice thing about this one too is it's very smooth, it's very delicious. There are a lot of ones out there that can be very grainy. I remember the last one that I bought, Amber, and it was, even I have a little trouble drinking it. It's kind of gritty, but I tasted worse, so I know how to down things. But for her, who's very picky, I need her to get her protein, so this is another good reason why we went with the Arbonne itself. So, And the kind of last portion I wanted to hit on with protein in general was knowing which supplements to buy. Obviously, everyone's been inundated and been to like GNC before. Walmart's starting to carry them. Target has them. Almost every department store now has a supplement section that you can get your protein, your pre-workouts, all that kind of stuff. Now, the problem with a lot of these supplement companies tend to be mismarketing and I'll just say unethical ways of practice. So, you go into Walmart and you buy your bargain brand protein because, you get a large container of it for a very bargain price. Well, I'd say in most instances, you kind of get what you pay for. A lot of protein out there, especially the very bargain price, tend to have a concept called amino acid spiking. What they'll actually do is they'll actually toss in a couple extra amino acids in there, giving them that extra boost of saying, hey, per serving you have 25 grams, 30 grams of protein. When in reality, third-party tests show that you're maybe getting 12 to 15 grams, almost half of what you should be getting out of it. So you're getting a lot of just extra nothing for the price. And essentially, at the end of the day, still costing you about the same what it would have been if you had actually bought a better, more high-quality type protein, getting the actual protein you're doing. So especially if you're someone who's exercising, who needs between 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein per day, if you're not getting adequate amounts, it could be reducing how fast you're seeing those improvements. So knowing kind of what to look for. I've been buying supplements for the last 10 years and I've definitely bought my bargain brands. The few ones that I like to endorse are TrueNutrition.com has a really great wholesale. You actually get to combine different types of proteins if you want to, so you can make your own vegan, vegetarian. They have different types of whey protein from isolate, concentrate, whatever you want to. Casein out there. JLab Pros that I showed here earlier is another great one that I found, much more high quality. And then Arbonne itself. Biggest thing you're looking for is, out of those, is really doing research, but finding ones that are very bioavailable, meaning you're able to absorb a majority of what you're consuming, versus a lot of that stuff tends to be a lot less bioavailable, meaning you may only be getting 70% of what you're getting, of what you're consuming, versus these are much more bioavailable. I believe Arbonne's is like 98% you'll actually absorb, which is nice. So just be a little cautious on going for the bargain brand protein. I average out in between about $1.20 to $1.80 per scoop is what you're getting. And again, if you think about, you're literally buying, let's just say, chicken breast. You see that that's usually sold for about $1.99 a pound, or beef definitely is a lot more expensive. So when you're choosing your proteins, don't kind of skimp on the price. You don't have to pay Kobe beef prices, which would be nice, but at the same time, that just tastes delicious. But don't go for the bargain prices. So that kind of is the protein overview I wanted to go over. So hopefully you guys found this a little informative. If you have any specific questions regarding anything I wasn't able to cover, or anything you want me to delve in deeper, comment below. I'd love to be able to respond to anybody. But I will just highly recommend you should be getting 0.8 grams to 1 gram per pound of body weight in protein per day. Just as kind of a general recommendation. You're going to get that primarily through your, eating a very diverse diet. So animal products, animals themselves, even certain carbohydrates combinations. So beans and rice are great. And then adding in a protein supplementation. It's not 100% required, but I guarantee you it's very difficult to get those recommendations without supplementing with it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and so just stay tuned for the next episode. I'll kind of start posting those out a little bit farther. But if you guys have a good evening, take care.